So I thought we're not going to be just reading the Bible and just talking about what the Bible means for the sake of the Bible. It's going to lead to other conversations. So we don't need a lighthearted topic for Wednesday. But you were like, let's start light instead of going straight to the scriptures. And I don't disagree with that. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
And so we did. We started with the idea of politics or whatever.
Yeah. Because when I think of something light, I think of politics.
We didn't start with politics. What did we? We started. Well, we've started as just laying down the foundation of how we used to disagree and how we used to debate these kind of things because they're fun. Yeah. They're fun to debate.
They are fun to debate. Yep. Until they're not. But
it's all fun and games until someone gets their feelings hurt.
The other thing is that.
Or accuses the other person of already having their feelings hurt.
Hey, or accuses the other person of accusing them of already having their feelings hurt.
Yeah, that's when it gets really bad.
That's really complex.
What is the Romans for today?
The Romans for today is Romans 9.
And Romans, both.
There you go.
You always forget.
9:30.
This is Women's Week.
I forgot that. Yeah. So anything that says man, we got to put woman in with it. So the Romans or Romans is 9:30 through 33.
All right.
And this is talking about Israel's unbelief.
What does this mean? Even though the Gentiles were not trying to follow God's standards, they were made right with God, and it was by faith that this took place. But the people of Israel, who tried so hard to get right with God by keeping the law, never succeeded. Why not? Because they were trying to get right with God by keeping the law instead of by trusting Him. They stumbled over the great rock in their path. God warned them of this in the scriptures when He said, I am placing a stone in Jerusalem that makes people stumble, a rock that makes them fall. But anyone who trusts in Him will never be disgraced.
So this is really good. This is something that we sort of alluded to earlier in the week, but the idea that the Gentiles were not trying to follow God's standards. They were made right with God through faith.
Mm-hmm.
So even though people like Abraham, who initially wasn't a Jew, he was made right. He was righteous through his faith. And this is indicating that the Gentiles also, even though they weren't a part of the law, they were saved by their faith. It almost makes it seem like the Jews kind of got a bad deal because they were given the law, which they could never meet. They never succeeded.
But the Gentiles can't keep the law either. That's
true, but they were never held to it.
But that is what it says here that the Israels who tried so hard to get right with God by keeping the law never succeeded. Why not? Because they were trying to get right with God by keeping the law instead of trusting Him. They stumbled over the great rock. Well, it sounds to me like the great rock is God's standard of perfection. The law is right, and that is how we should live. That is the template. And nobody can keep up with it. And so it says they stumbled over the great rock in their path. God warned them of this in the scripture when He said, I'm placing a stone in Jerusalem that makes people stumble. The stone in Jerusalem that makes people stumble seems like it makes everybody stumble. Because if the stone, correct me if I'm wrong, if the stone that He's referring to is God's standard of perfection, then
Okay.
anybody who encounters it is going to stumble on it. And a lot of people are going to react negatively to that because people don't want to have a mirror shining a light on the where they fall short.
So read the last sentence,
But
though.
anyone who trusts in him will never be disgraced.
So I was always led to believe that the stone is actually Jesus. So
Okay.
I'm placing a stone in Jerusalem that makes people stumble, a rock that makes them fall, but anyone who trusts in him will never be disgraced.
Interesting. Well, that's probably
So,
better.
but I mean, I think it's a combination of what we just said. I think it is Jesus, and it is the fact that you cannot live up to the standard of the law.
And because you can't live up to the standard of the law is why you need Jesus. And you have to come to that.
Yes.
You have to come to that place of humility and surrender that says, I am not what I need to be. I need saved. And a lot of people, that goes against human nature to ever posture yourself that weak. And,
Yes.
but I mean, the encouraging thing of this is that it's basically, it's nice to know when I hear about, well, here's God's standard, but we've all fallen short. It's nice to actually think about that for a minute and digest it and say,
Yeah.
are there things that I have done totally willfully, wrongfully? I knew it was wrong, knew it was a bad idea, didn't want to do it, and did it anyway. Yes. And so,
Yeah.
because I'm so intimately aware of my own poor choices, I think, yeah, everybody stumbles, but me, I have willfully done the unforgivable. It's one
Yeah.
thing if I, trip down the stairs and knock you down with me and then you break your arm. It's another thing to break your arm. It's like one of them you can forgive easier. And I always tend to think about other people as generally good.
Yeah.
And I think, well, look at them. They did so much wrong, but we all fall down the stairs sometimes. But then when I look at myself, I think of those times where it's like, you didn't trip down the stairs. You just whacked your best friend with a baseball bat. That's not forgivable. You knew what you were doing and you did it anyway. And I might be going too far in one direction. I probably should be careful, but what it's saying is regardless of where you are at, it doesn't matter what you've done because everybody is in the same boat. That's the point. Like, here's the law. Here's perfect. Try it. Did you do it? Nope. And it's like, yeah, because you by yourself can't. It's just not possible. And so you need me. And if you will
Yes.
trust in me, I will save you despite of anything. Whatever it is that is unsavable, unforgivable, unlovable, I can. I know what you've
Yes.
done, and I still accept
Yep.
you. But you have to just believe that that's true for you.
Yep. Yeah. And what's interesting is that the people that actually feel like they've done too much wrong for it to be savable, they're the ones that are actually in the right place. It's the people that think, hey, I've got it. Don't worry about me. I've got this. I've been following the law. I'm a good enough person. I don't need Jesus. They're the ones that are most in trouble. So it's I think that is part of what is meant by the rock in the path, that these people, they don't recognize that. And I mean, it's true today too. There's a lot of people who don't recognize that they need a savior because they think they've got it covered. And it's so, you love the testimonies of people who they just felt like they were so unsavable, and then God came in and still saved them. And they were willing, they accepted it, and it happened. Those are my favorite testimonies.
There is an aspect of Romans that I think that myself and possibly others within the Christian culture, we read because we're so familiar with it. And it almost encourages the wrong kind of behavior. And what I mean by that is when Paul says things like, once you become a Christian, you're a slave to righteousness, you're no longer a slave to sin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is true. I have experienced the ability to...
the freedom from the sin.
I've experienced the ability to resist temptation and not fall at times where the temptation seemed very, very high, and at other points in my life I would have. However,
and you've experienced that God is giving you an out,
Yep.
right? Like you're experiencing temptation, and you're like, oh, that might be something I want to do, but God gives you the exit route.
Yeah.
You've experienced that.
So I'm not calling the Bible not true. However,
yeah.
I think there's an implication there that I have also experienced temptation and failure as a fully believing, fully conscious Christian. And
Yes.
what I'm saying is, when I read Romans and it lays out the circumstance of a Christian, and then I compare those statements with my life, there are parts where those don't overlap perfectly. And then the temptation for me is to try and project that, oh, I'm the Romans guy now. And I try to, like, I almost ignore it even to myself. It's like, well, that's not me anymore. And it's like, that's the old me. And and so it's, what I'm trying to explain is difficult, because I'm not contradicting what Romans says. And I do think that God's grace is big enough and that we do have power over sin. At the same time, living the life that we're living, so oftentimes, even within our Christian life, if I measure myself up against God's perfect law, I still fall short, and I still fall short even from my conversion. And so at no point do I ever have the ability to be like, oh, thank goodness it's over. Like, yeah. I still have to wake up and prepare for battle every day. I still have to recognize that there's an enemy coming after me and that I have to be vigilant. And it's difficult for me, and I'm just talking personally. This isn't necessarily maybe even across the board. It's very, very hard for me to get back up when I've screwed up. And I knew full well the temptation, the contemplation, and the execution. At no point in any part of the process was I ever naive to the fact that this is wrong and you should not do this. You should not make the decision. You should not participate in this. And then it was enticing and it still happened. And it's like, it's very hard for me then to wake up the next morning and go, it's hard for me to now repent, because I think, well, no, I did that with my eyes wide open. And one of the things, and I'm not trying to be self-indulgent, but one of the things with this, why I'm saying all of it, is because my takeaway here from from a lot of this stuff that I'm reading in Romans is, yeah, that's what that's what the law does. The law shows you, and
Yeah.
even though you're even though you know even though you're a Christian, part of that daily race in that relationship, we always say it's a relationship, not a religion. In keeping that relationship is recognizing that, yep, it's okay, in a sense of, well, now you have to pay consequences. You probably lost
Yes.
treasures in heaven, but you're still mine. And if you still trust me, my grace will cover even that. So
Yeah.
get back up, because there's no point in
Yep.
staying down. You can't change the past. So, and you're still covered. So good news, buddy. You're still mine. I'm still yours, and we'll still move forward. And I'm sorry about the consequences, but you did that to yourself.
Yep. My grace is going to cover you.
Yeah. So,
And that's that to continue running the good race.
so say that one more time. You froze real quick.
Oh. So yeah. It was really good.
So
and I
that's what
promise it
gives
was-
you the incentive to keep running the
Yes,
good
so-
race every day.
Yes, that is what gives you the incentive. The grace that God's giving us is so powerful and so undeserved that we say, all right, I want to dive in. I want this to be my hobby. I want to wake up every day and for this to be my goal for the day and fight that good fight and race as to win.
There's
And,
no moment in time where his grace, love, and forgiveness is unavailable to you.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's easy for me to talk myself out of it, because I think in terms of relationships, in a real sense of, I know you, Steve. I know you very well. If
Yep.
you were to just break my arm with a baseball bat, I would have a hard time moving forward, even though you said you were really sorry, because this act that you just did all of a sudden is very, very different from the Steve that I've known. And so the fact that you did it kind of says, oh, there's more to you that I wasn't aware of. And when
Yeah.
when I screw up, that's what I project onto God. It's like God goes, wow, Dave. Wow, I had no idea. Got it. I guess you're not that great. And then I think, I'm not that great. I better not think about God for a while, because then he can see me. He can see me if I think about him. So,
That's like you being one of those kids that when he's underneath when he's closing his eyes, you can't see him. God does know how bad you are.
yeah, like my dad said in the analogy where it's like when you're looking in the nursery at the church, or you look in the nursery and you see your little kid who's like 1 playing, and he has no idea that dad's looking at him through the window. And
Yeah.
dad can see the things that the kid is interested in, and he also sees all the potential temptations in the room. And so when the kid starts to go towards the cookies, dad knows he can see the scenario. And then the kid is
Yes.
like, what? How the heck did dad know? And it is sort of odd to treat God with that type of a relationship. Like you just blew his mind by being such a hypocrite. No, he saw the cookies and he saw you waddle all the way from one side of the room to the other. And, you were more surprised that you got a cookie in the end than he was.
Now, there's also something that I'm recently learning is that sin, and we've talked about this too. It's not just the bad things you do. It's also who you are, right? Like the things that you think are good, that is also probably sin in some
Could
way.
be.
And there is a YouTuber, and he's also got a podcast. And he just recently published a video that I think is great. And his name's Matt Whitman.
Okay.
And his YouTube channel is the 10-Minute Bible Hour.
Yes, I've heard of him.
And yeah, and his new video is What is Sin?
I saw
and
that.
He gives a list.
I didn't see the video. I saw the tag. So you must have watched it,
Oh,
and then
okay.
it recommended because we share the same YouTube account sometimes.
So yes, it is. I think it's exceptional. It opened my eyes a lot, and
It was him with his little kid.
It is him with his little kid, and they're breaking eggs.
Oh, that's great.
And the idea is that breaking eggs is sin, and they're showing all the different potential things that would cause sin, and some of them you wouldn't put in the category of sin. You'll be surprised when you watch it.
I'm going to watch it right now.
You're going to be surprised what he categorizes as sin. And there are like 7 different types of sin. I don't remember exactly the number, but it was more than 2. And the first one is the sin you're talking about.
Throw the egg against the ground.
Just throwing, you knew it was wrong and you just threw it.
That's the worst kind.
But
the kind you feel the worst about.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But as far as God's concerned, all of it is separating you from him.
Yep.
And but this is such a great video.
Cool.
I've watched a couple of his videos in the past. This is by far the best one I've ever seen.
Well, maybe we'll put a link in it then. You make something that you make something that great. I'm happy to promote it to all 4 of our viewers.
Well, we've got more now.
I know. I need to stop saying that joke because we got plenty more. And we've had a lot of really good shout outs from some of our friends and old friends and new friends. And I'm really excited to have the group we have so far. And I'm looking forward to.
Isn't it? It's been encouraging to hear how people have responded to our whatever this is, what we've been trying to.
Yep.
So we've enjoyed this, and so it's been really good hearing from people that have enjoyed it. It's funny to think that someone has binge watched something I have made.
Yeah, that you don't know.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't even know this person. They saw it and they were like, "Oh, I've got to see more."
It's Margarita, a friend of mine from Texas. She said I binged your shows, and I was like, that was a nice thing to say. It's fun. It is. I don't like it when the YouTubers beg and they talk about and they bring it about them because it seems odd. It's like, look, no, do your show. Don't make it about you. It is. I do now sort of understand it because you put yourself out there. And when somebody takes the time to say something nice, it means the world. You go, oh, that feels great. That's why you do it. You do it. You don't do a show for yourself. You do a show for the audience.
It's too bad we're not very good at sort of like the intro. Today we're going to be talking about and giving people a framework. It's too bad we're not very good at saying, hey, subscribe to us on YouTube and ring the bell, or, we're on Instagram and, you can subscribe. It can be.
I think I'm pretty good at it.
Ever done it?
No, but I thought here's my operating assumption. And this is why we don't do it. One of my favorite videos on YouTube is the guy who plays the trombones.
Okay.
Like, boom, 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 boom.
Yes. Yep.
That song.
Yep.
It's such a great YouTube video. I've played if I were to see my history on YouTube, that would have a higher number of plays than most individual songs. They'd be in the top 15 probably. 10 probably.
When you say he plays trombone, like does the musician actually plays the trombone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Have you not seen the video? I'm
I've never
surprised I
seen the
didn't show
video.
you. But anyway, it's a great video. You should look it up. He opens the video with, "Hi guys, and this blah 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 blah, and I'm gonna be at this place here, and I'm gonna be at that place," and it's like there's 30 seconds of horridness, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
love this video. I want to share this video. I hate the first 20 seconds because it's not what I want to hear, and it
Yeah.
also didn't age well because he's not going to be at that place this Thursday anymore. So
Yes.
that's something I don't like. So number one, that would be the things that are time sensitive, where we're talking about, hey, if you say, hey, ring the bell, get the subscription, it's fine. I mean, you just got to figure out a cool way to do it. You'd be like, hey, thanks for
Yeah.
liking that video and ringing the bell. We'll see you next time. Or we can
Yeah.
come up with a tag that's like, and the good racer subscribes and rings the bell. So they don't
Yeah.
miss leg day with us, right? You
They'll miss leg day.
yeah, you can do something like that, and I'm totally
No.
open to it. I don't want to do the cheesy sales pitch on it because everybody knows
Everybody does know.
if they like this show and they want to see it again, they need to subscribe.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I've run into a lot of people in my wife's family. I was like, hey, you just go ahead and subscribe if you want to watch it again. And they said, yeah, I don't have a YouTube account. I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, well, you've got a Gmail account, right? And they're like, yeah, everyone's got a Gmail account.
Then
I'm like,
you
well,
have a YouTube
that is your YouTube account. And they said, oh, I didn't know that, right? Like, and I'm like, yeah, you sign in, and then I'm like, all right, sign in, and then subscribe because we need, 4. And then,
We need 4.
no, I mean at the time we were just starting to
needed 4.
share it. We needed 4. And so then it's like, okay, how do you share with people that it's on the podcast? Like, we are letting people know that it's on YouTube because it's easy to see. But it's like, well, a lot of people that I know, they would prefer if they're in the car to just listen to the audio. And so it's like, and every system has a different link. So if you're on Spotify, it's one link. If it's on Apple Podcasts, it's a different link. And and it's my understanding that Apple sort of rules all of them.
Okay.
So if you have really good ratings, like if people are leaving a comment on your Apple Podcast, that decides how good you are.
Okay.
And then that kind of communicates to the other systems. But it's one of those things where it's like there is communication that would be nice to have, but yeah, I mean, it's not something that would normally come up in conversation. So
then
just
that's a good thought. I don't mind doing it if you want to do a compromise, we'll do it like once or twice a week instead of every single show.
yeah, and I mean, again, it's not something that comes up in
something that
conversation,
you
so
should
I don't
say.
even know how something that. Hey, yeah,
It's because I don't want to hear myself say it. I hate it. So, because whenever I see it on YouTube, I'm like, now the converse thing is I'm okay with if you can say it in 2 seconds and you can say it in a fun way that's natural. Like,
Yeah.
hey, and like other good racers, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss.
more of this awesomeness.
You don't miss a day in 2021.
Yeah.
Like something
Yeah.
like that that's cool and quick. It's fine, and that's probably a good idea because someone might go, "Oh yeah, I do want to subscribe," and they might not have thought of it themselves, but you plant the idea and they go, "Sure, maybe so."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so many people are like, "Hey, and it does me such a great favor, and I would be so grateful if you would just like and then click the bell because clicking the bell is so much." And you're like, "Dude, shut up!" Like all of a sudden, I will not subscribe or click the bell. I'll
Yeah, exactly.
never do that for you.
You know what? I love, there's this one guy that has an Apple news thing, and he is going to publish one every day. And what I like about his is it comes on before I wake up. And so I never really subscribed to people, but I subscribed to him, rang the bell. So now when I wake up, I don't even have to go look for it. I can just click on it on my homepage. And then as I'm getting dressed, I hear this little English guy telling me about what news happened in Apple products.
Well, I do like how you have the setup. Your system is to post the video and then set it to premiere. And so
at 6 a.m.
Yeah. And so as a subscriber, it says, oh, and a countdown. Yeah, you say 6 a.m. Well, 6 a.m. for you is 3 a.m. for me. And so I always see it the night before. So I'm like, okay, it's going to be in 3 hours. It's the premiere is counting down. And I do kind of like, it is kind of cool. It's like, hey, there you go. I mean, you know something's going to happen, and you can see the thumbnail and you can see the stuff. I found out you can even like it before it
plays.
So like if you, which is the best time to like a video
before you've watched it.
For the provider, because you don't know if you're going to like it or not. You might hate it. Some of our shows suck. But if you're like, I like these guys, then they like it, even if it sucks, they probably won't take the time to go back and go, no, I messed up. But, it's here and there. And then the other thing is, and I'm going to need you to really, I'm going to need you to really be able to overcome this.
Okay.
Part of the charm of a cold intro is that even if the topic of conversation is not especially compelling, because the conversation has already begun, as a listener, you have to, your brain goes into speed up mode because you've got pieces to put together. Yeah. And so it creates the illusion that the conversation is moving fast right out of the chute.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden, when you hit play on a Good Race show, you hear the song's going, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm giving a sentence that is a completion to a thought you weren't part of. And what I have noticed when I've listened to it in my editing is every conversation has a lead up, and including this one, I could go back and I could see that we ramped up to get to where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole first chunk might have been 10 seconds, might have been 40 seconds. If it's 40 seconds, a new listener's out because they don't know where it's going or why it's going there.
Yeah.
If it's 10 seconds, they're all caught up and they might get to the meat of the conversation, but it doesn't feel like a fast conversation because it's like, okay, these guys just started something new. Instead of they're joining into something that is happening. They're in all of a sudden without any training wheels, they were thrown into the deep end. That's a good analogy. Without training wheels, they were thrown into the deep end. Yeah. So
without a paddle.
Yeah. You also know that's not going to make it in when I do this. Because I haven't
itching your ears. And whenever that is said, it's almost always actually going to go in.
Probably.
If it squeaked, like get your chair to squeak back and forth while you do it, that would be even better.
Dude, I got to get one of those Capisco chairs because they don't squeak.
Yeah. They don't squeak? How can they not squeak?
Look, man. I can't justify buying it if you keep throwing out arguments that I can't defeat.